Meeting today. We're actually not having a committee meeting. I wouldn't call it. It's kind of informal information because we had to clear a few things up on language and make sure. Because today we're reporting out on the water office the recommendation. Hello, hello. Hear that? Okay, all right. So back up. So we're meeting informally so we can check for one thing, we got to approve the minutes. One first thing for sure we'll do is approve the minutes. And then we were going to have some discussion on the answer on the report we're going to give today in Ways and Means on the water office, how that was to explain that language of that going to the treasurer, and we've got it a corrected version, and we want to make sure everybody had the same thing. So that was corrected and made whole. So we'll just make sure we'll verify that this morning unless somebody has some questions. And then the other we're not going to discuss Senate Bill 71. I decided that we're not going to pursue that this time. So the House had decided they weren't going to do anything with theirs. So that would be futile for us to be doing anything too. So anyway, that's where we're at. But we did want to mention that if someone's interested in seeing that 4-minute film of the methane that the fellow had brought that in here, that's available to see that. So we'll do that when we are finished our business. And then if someone wants to stay and watch that, it'll be available. So Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I have a point of personal privilege?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. My understanding is students from Bishop Seabury Academy in Lawrence raced up here this morning so that they could attend this committee meeting. So I'd like to ask them to stand and welcome them to the committee.
You're going to be here all day?
So they're part of a group of 25 students from Seabury, and their assignment is to attend one committee meeting, either the House or the Senate meeting on the floor, and interview or talk to one of either their senator or representative who's here. So with that, Mr. Chair, I did suggest that they could come to this AG meeting because at the time, my understanding was that we would be working Senate Bill 71. And I certainly understand that you do not want this bill to be passed out of committee. However, I'm hoping Tamara has copies of the amendment with her. I did say at our last meeting on Friday that I would share those with the committee. And I think there are some changes in there that actually make the new wording more consistent with what this committee wanted. And I also know that Senator Dahls particularly had questions about water use, so there's an addition in there that talks about while limiting consumptive water use. Can Tamara pass copies of that out to the committee?
You got copies? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll have Tamara correct me if I say anything wrong, but I did, and I want to thank Kelsey Olson, who met with me Friday morning to talk through some of what might work for the Department of Agriculture. So as you can see, even in the title, this strikes the wording that we're establishing a division of sustainable agriculture and just talks about the nonprofit organization. I think there's still some question as to whether you would need a nonprofit organization to accept the funds. But it adds what one of our conferees asked to agricultural commodities. It adds or byproducts. Again, as I noted, when we define a sustainable agricultural district, to provide means whereby producers of agricultural commodities can reap economic benefits from renewable energy and sustainable agricultural. It adds the phrase, while limiting consumptive water use. And then again, on lines 23 and 24, it's striking that the department shall establish a division of sustainable agriculture, and goes on to say that the secretary would create this nonprofit organization to allocate the federal funds from this newly established Kansas Sustainable Agricultural Fund. And it did add in also the request from one of our conferees about the section being applicable to any facility commissioned on or after January 1st, and that's on the back page of the bill. So knowing that there's no intention to move this bill out of committee, my interest is if we adopt the bill, then the wording will be saved as part of the committee action. And if somebody wants to go back to it, they wouldn't have to call Tamara to get the wording. It would be saved as part of that record. And I know that happened when we last year worked on a utilities bill. We could go back and find that amendment. And it was helpful because it shared a date for the lighting on wind turbine. So, Mr. Chair, could I make a motion to adopt the amendment? Or do people have questions on the amendment?
Any questions on what we're doing? Seeing none, improving what we had, so at least that.
And I would like to see that improvement in the record, because I think this is an issue we should take seriously, and there may be opportunities in the future. I know that if we don't take action on this bill this year, it will be impossible to meet the timelines that the federal government has established. But the federal government has also been known to delay timelines or extend a program. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to adopt this amendment on Senate Bill 71.
Moved and second, we adopt amendment on 71. Any discussion? Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. You have your amendment. So that concludes our work with Senate Bill 71, and there's going to be no other changes. This here amendment's been adopted, but our plan is not to, we're not going to hear it in this committee. So next item, anybody have some, for the approval of the minutes that we've been passed out? You've got them, I think through email you got your minutes.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out that I did talk both with Luke Drury and our committee secretary about the minutes for February 9th. And I hope that Senator Fagg has had an opportunity to look at those. I think the changes that we made more clearly reflect his motion, which was to transfer the $50 million to the state treasurer, not the 52.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no problem with that. I've changed that over, and when I go committee a whole, you'd find it very interesting. Been with Water Department, got a 2-page thing figured out on this thing, so I'll show that to you. Representative Francisco when I see it, but it's basically, instead of 50 million, it's going to be around 52. That's the payoff, and I'll go into the detail on that, but I think you'd understand what we're doing. But back to our motion was 50 million that day. So we're just trying to clean up what we had done at that point. So I'm with you on that part. I have no problem with what you had written there for our minutes in this committee. So,
Yeah, we want to be uniform here.
yes. But
That's fine, and if you have found out more information about the payoff, that's certainly appropriate to bring up in the Ways and Means Committee.
that's the plan. Yeah.
One other item, okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moving second, that we approve the minutes.
And
Discussion?
these are the minutes from February 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Minutes are approved. One other question, back on the water office, and that solution that came up with that, this idea of investing money instead of running it through the systems that are going through in the normal of a committee or the offices. So it's, is there a streamlined way to do, like when the treasurer, when they handed him the money to invest, does somebody have somebody look in on how that should be happening? I think Senator Fagg has done some preliminary information on that, on moving towards investments of idle funds rather than just letting them sit there and then we'll spend them. So, did anybody comment on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a plan after we had our meeting and we kind of hurried that through. The water office got the payoff and it's around 52 million. The theory is that we didn't want to have a gap between the 50 and the 52 in case they needed to pay it off because of what drought, where the Corps would open that up. They wanted to have the ability to go in and pay it off so that, we would, the Corps wouldn't be telling us what to do. So this kind of covers that. And so I think it's the Finance Committee that has the authority to do that kind of thing, and that's written into that. So we did two things. One, we got the payoff to know exactly what we was dealing with, and two was to have a plan of exactly how that works. And the plan is going to the state treasurer. State treasurer will be investing that in either up to 1-year treasuries. And I know, just to give you an example, a week ago, 6-month treasuries was at 4.93, and one rate was 2.65 and the other one was 3.05. So we'll be in a process of making some money, and whatever money that we make goes back to state general fund when this goes, and it takes us through like 2024. And I'm kind of coming off the top of my head with what was done, but it's very detailed, and the water office has been around that, and the state treasurer's office has been around that. And I think we got all our ducks in order to do the right thing. So I'd have brought a copy today, but I didn't bring it with me, so I'm sorry.
Well, thank you very much for that, all the effort you put into that in helping us sort out what's the best move and how to best manage our money here at Capitol. So we appreciate that. So, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I talked with Victoria Potts, she had understood that there might be some prohibition about letting the water office pay the interest and principal payments in the meantime, if this money were set aside. I don't think that's the case. There was nothing in our minutes that indicated that, and I just wanted to be sure that that's how the committee felt, because this debt will increase over time if we don't make those payments in between.
And the plan is, Mr. Chairman, can I answer that? The plan, knowing that interest will increase, but at the same time, we're going to be making interest more off of that than what we would be accruing on the other part. So this will be growing that direction. So they don't have to make those payments. And so not having to make those payments and the interest growing faster on the investment side than what it's incurred on the debt side was the plan. And Victoria's been around that. So I didn't get in that part of the conversation with her, Senator Francisco, so that's kind of new to me on that part.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we'll hope that the funds retain this as the intent and are not swept. Because if they are swept, the other thing would be happening, that there would be a higher cost if we aren't paying off those bonds. And there's nothing that this legislature can do to ensure that a subsequent legislature will use the money in the way that we intend.
Well, thank you for your comments and your suggestions. I think it's noteworthy that we're pursuing ways to make money on our investments as opposed to just spending them. But anyway, so appreciate that very much. That concludes, I think, unless anybody else has some questions, what business that not unofficial business we took care of today. So, and I did want to check, did Senator Straub, can you hear us all right? Oh, okay. And Senator McGinn, you there? You hear us? She might have left. We're about done. But anyway, I was just checking. So, all right. Committee, any questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you. We're adjourned. And then if you want to watch the video.
I would like to watch the video, and I think we have an audience who might want to watch the video. So this is about a greenhouse gas emission facility from Denmark. New technology.
Meeting's adjourned, yeah. I accidentally did.